Hello, I'm Walt Tamer. I want to update you today on two incidents that have occurred in our restaurants over the last several weeks that have received a lot of attention in the media. We've been investigating these two incidents, trying to determine exactly what's occurred. If you're interested in exactly what happened in those restaurants on those two nights, I'll share with you in a separate video the facts as we know them today and what exactly occurred on those two nights. In summary form, though, what we really have discovered is that in both instances, the customer's behavior was completely inappropriate for our business or for any business for that matter. It was not at all consistent with our house rules. And most specifically, threats were made to our associates that involved their immediate harm and danger. Your safety and that of our customers is of utmost importance. And if you ever feel that you are threatened or in harm's way, we expect you to call the local authorities. There are very significant issues facing our country, and it's important to have a discussion about those issues. However, in these two instances, race did not play any factor in our associates' decision to call the police. We're very proud of our story at Waffle House. It's a story that's rich in inclusion and dates all the way back to the founding of our business in the 1950s, when Joe and Tom opened up their doors and welcomed anyone to come eat with us and welcomed anyone to come work with us. This inclusive culture has produced a very diverse workforce over the course of the history of our business. For example, did you know that 36% of our workforce is African American, 28% of our management team is African American, and 32% of our shareholders are African American? These stats didn't just occur overnight. They happened over many years of developing a strong, rich culture that welcomes everybody. Waffle House now is a business that's about 50,000 people strong, and it's made up of a group of individuals that show up every day and work very hard to take care of each other and to take care of our customers. We have millions of customers who walk through our doors every day, and most of those customers are wonderful to do business with. But on rare occasion, we have customers whose behavior gets out of bounds of what's appropriate in our business. And sometimes that behavior gets so far as to rise to the level of being threatening to our customers and our associates. And as I mentioned before, it's times like those that we do call on our local partners in law enforcement to help us de-escalate and solve those situations. Waffle House is a company with a rich history, a company that's very proud of the inclusive nature on both sides of our counter. I'm proud of you for helping create that business, and I'm proud to work with you each and every day. If you're at all interested in seeing the details of what we think occurred in those two evenings, please check out the other video. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in the restaurants. We'll get through this together, and I'm proud in each and every one of you. Thank you. Hello, I'm Walt Tamer. I mentioned in a previous video that I would share with you the facts as we know them today surrounding the two incidents that occurred in restaurants in Saraland, Alabama, and Warsaw, North Carolina. We've investigated both of these incidents and talked to all the associates working that night, gotten statements from customers where we could, and lined all that up with CCTV footage to try to determine exactly what happened. In both cases, the testimony or the witness statements from our folks, the witnesses, and the CCTV pretty much line up with what I'm going to describe for you as the facts as we know them. The first instance was in Saraland, Alabama. At about 2:30 in the morning, 3 customers entered the restaurant, and they appeared to be intoxicated. One of those customers was carrying an open container that we believed had alcohol in it. Our server approached the table and asked one of the customer carrying that container, if she would kindly remove the container outside of the restaurant or throw it away. She refused and defiantly drank the drink down in front of our associate. That notwithstanding, we continued to take the order and proceed with the service process. There was some evidence of a misunderstanding about the possible additional 50-cent charge for some to-go silverware that was requested by the customer. We're not entirely sure about the details surrounding that, but we believe pretty strongly that another server intervened and cleared up the confusion and said there would not be a 50-cent charge or any charge for that to-go silverware, and you can see the to-go silverware placed on the table. At some point, though, the customers became irate. so irate that one of the customers came across the booth line in a threatening manner towards our associate. Threats were made against our associates working that evening, significant threats that even included the use of gun violence. We asked the customers to leave. We contacted the police. The customers actually did proceed to leave the building, except for one customer, Miss Clemens. She got most of the way out of the door, but came back inside and continued to threaten and berate our associates. At some point, the police arrived, and they took control of the situation. In Warsaw, a gentleman named Mr. Wall and his party arrived late one evening, and when they approached the restaurant was full. They had to wait about 20 minutes for a table. When that table ultimately cleared, Mr. Wall and his party approached the table and proceeded to try to sit in the booth before we had an opportunity to clean the booth. A server standing nearby, taking an order from another customer, asked Mr. Wall and his party if they'd give us a few minutes to give us some time to clear the table off, and Mr. Wall became very irate. He started yelling and threatening our associates at that point. An African-American server we had working that evening tried to intervene and de-escalate the situation. That did not work. The situation continued to escalate between Mr. Wall and our associates to the point that the server that had intervened to try to de-escalate things actually triggered a call to the police. Others called the police as well, and at some point, one of the customers in the restaurant physically restrained Mr. Wall until the police arrived. The police ultimately did arrive. They took Mr. Wall and they escorted him outside the restaurant. Those are the facts as we know them of what occurred in those two restaurants that night. Both instances, the situation presented an immediate danger to our associates. They were threatened, and they felt threatened. We did see nothing that says it was not appropriate for our associates to call 911 that evening. In both cases, the crews working in both of those restaurants were diverse, and both customer bases were diverse. As I mentioned in the previous video, we have a rich, inclusive culture, something that we're proud of, and a wonderful workforce that we work together with every day. It's not easy, and we don't like being accused of something that we're not guilty of, but we'll get through this together. I thank you for what you do to take care of the customers every day. I thank you for what you do to take care of each other. You are what makes this business special. The vast majority of the millions of interactions we have with our customer are positive and wonderful. Occasionally, the behavior of some of our customers gets out of bounds, and it's appropriate for us to try to de-escalate the situation. But when threats of violence are made against you or your coworkers or other customers, we expect you to call law enforcement. Please let me know if you have any thoughts or comments about these particular incidents, anything that you've heard, or questions you have about how this is all proceeding. I appreciate your patience as we work through this. We're trying to meet with the other side and explain everything as we know it and as the facts seem to line up and indicate, but we'll see our way through this somehow, some way. Thank you for all you do for each other. Thank you for all you do for the poor old cash customer. I'll see you in the restaurants.